Over the past few weeks, I have taken this lens to World Championships, a Premier League football match, even to the zoo. I have shot thousands of images with this lens in a variety of different bodies. But the question you're probably asking yourself is, but will it be something I can actually use and put into my kit, or is this more of a vanity lens? And we're going to answer that question, and the answer may surprise you at the end of this video. Let's get down to it. All right, guys. First and foremost, this video is not sponsored. Sigma Singapore was very kind enough to loan me this lens for review. With that said, my thoughts and my thoughts only. These lenses go right back to Sigma right after I'm done with this, okay? All right, the 200 f2. This is a beautiful piece of art. Now, there's been other 200mm f2 lenses in the past, from Canon and from Nikon respectively, but they've been for DSLRs. Case in point, the Nikon came around 2.9 kgs, and the Canon came around 2.5. Now, also Canon had a 200mm f1.8, the Eye of Sauron, which nobody has sort of replicated for the mirrorless system, but this is the first time we're seeing a 200mm f2 lens for a mirrorless camera system. Now, there's others out there who have been leaked that's saying that they're coming out with one, but that it's not out yet. Sigma's the first, and it comes for the Sony E mount and the L mount respectively. You got to say something about Sigma this year. They have really stepped it up. You know, Sigma's been making fantastic glass over the past number of years. But I have to say, this year when they launched the Sigma BF, which took everybody by surprise, a very avant-garde, forward-thinking camera system. I know it's not for everybody, but I really enjoy using this. They launched the 300 to 600 f4, which is a fantastic sports and wildlife lens, but it's very heavy. I got a video coming on that very soon. And now we've got the 200mm f2. And when they first passed me this lens, I was quite shocked at the size. It's shorter than I thought it was going to be and lighter than I thought it was going to be, because obviously the last time I saw a 200 f2 was the Nikon, and I almost got that one a few months back, but it's very big, and I thought, nah, I'll wait. And I'm glad I did, because this makes a lot more sense. Jumping in here to show you guys what it looks like on a variety of different camera systems. Now, this is with the Sigma BF. Probably not the optimal body that you want to use with this lens because of the size. And I have this grip by Yuan Wood. It's some company I saw on Taobao. Does a decent job. It's aluminum, pretty well made, but probably a larger grip would handle this lens a bit better. But overall, you're going to put the weight on the lens a bit more and then kind of balance it this way with the display in the back because there's no EVF. But it does the job, and the autofocusing with this setup is relatively quick. But I probably would venture to mount this on, let's say, a Lumix S1R2, Sony A1 II, as I did for a lot of the shots in this video, and the Leica SL3 respectively. This is with the hood. If I take off the hood, it does get a bit shorter, as you can see right there. Not too bad. But again, this hood's going to protect that 105mm front element, which obviously you don't want to damage this bad boy. But the hood is, you know, it's not heavy, but it does add definitely some length to this overall. I will tell you guys the Cliff Notes version of this video. Hopefully you watch the entire end of it, because we're going to answer some other questions to this as well. Optically, this is Sigma at their best. This lens is breathtakingly beautiful. The background separation from your subject to the background, even foreground, is amazing. The autofocus is lightning quick. The stabilization inside this lens is fantastic. This lens gives your image something special. And sometimes you want that, especially if you are in a crowd of photographers in a sporting event and you need to capture something that's going to make you stand out amongst the others. A lens like this will be that kind of lens. Specs wise, we've got 19 elements in 14 groups, 2 FLD elements, 2 SLD elements inside of this. You've got 11 rounded aperture blades. Now the aperture goes from f2 to f22, and the minimum focusing distance is 170 centimeters or 67 inches. And the filter size on this bad boy is 105 millimeters. So if you want to put an ND filter on this, I guess you can, but you're going to have to order something, and it's going to be very, very expensive. So while you can declick the aperture on this, and I guess you could say you can use it for video, and it probably will look beautiful for video, you're probably either going to have to stop down in bright daylight unless you have an ND filter that can handle this, or you're going to have to adjust your lighting like you're in a studio setting like this and bring down your lighting, because you are getting, one more stop of light versus an f2.8 lens. You're getting a lot of light into this bad boy, and it'll look beautiful, trust me. But yeah, I think primarily it's going to be for photographers, but that's just my opinion. On this lens, you've got also something very special. You've got this optical stabilization algorithm that's inside of this. And you've got two options for the stabilization. You got one for panning and one for normal, but the image stabilization inside of this is effectively 6.5 stops. Now, if you have a very good camera system, let's say like the Lumix S1R2, that's got fantastic image stabilization inside of this, paired with that, I mean, you can be 1/100 on your shutter speed, probably even less, and still get sharp images. That's how good the stabilization is. It was very, very impressive. Now, the cameras that I did use this on primarily were the Sony A1 II when I was at the World Aquatics Championships, and even the Premier League match we had here, Arsenal versus Newcastle United. I actually got a chance to go and shoot that, and I brought this lens along with me to test it out to see how it performed. With that said, how would someone use this lens? And you know, over this past few weeks, I've had a really good experience capturing sports as a quote-unquote professional photographer and at the World Aquatics Championships. And I learned a lot about lenses, a lot about what it takes to shoot inside an indoor arena, the light that comes in, the kind of fast aperture that you need on a lens to sort of, keep the ISO down, at the same time, higher shutter speeds. When I talked to Bob Martin, I did a previous video, if you want to watch that, you can. He did say something to me very interesting. He said, he loves the 5150 from Sony, the f2 lens. And he said he likes that lens because it gives your image a special look. It's something different. It's not an f2.8 look, it's an f2. He feels that something like that helps you stand out amongst the crowd. And this kind of lens will do just that. And during my sessions over there at the World Aquatics Championships, I had the 600 f4, the 400 2.8, the 100 400, and then I also had this. Now, obviously, NDA can't really bring this out too much, so I had to be very discreet with it. But I will tell you, when I mounted this lens on the A1 II, and I was capturing images in an indoor arena, fast shutter speed, I didn't have to think about the ISO so much because it's an f2. And that means I could get, faster shutter speeds. I could really freeze the action if I wanted to do that. Nice depth of field. And even as the swimmers were walking by and just capturing a sort of like an environmental portrait, it's just beautiful how it blows out the background. It's gonna make your image stand out. And with the fast autofocusing motors inside of this, I didn't miss a beat. And then I went to the Premier League match we had here. It was Arsenal versus Newcastle United, right? It was kind of like an exhibition match. And I was on the sidelines and I had the pass and I was right there and I had the 100 400 and I also had this with me. And I went to APS-C crop sometimes with this as well, just to get a little extra length out of it. And it was a lightning quick. Now again, with, lenses like Sigma and other manufacturers out there that are not native Sony manufactured lenses, you're not going to get the full, frames per second. So I think it maxes out at 15 frames per second versus 30 on the A1 II or 120 on the A9 III, for example, right? But 15 is still a lot. I captured a lot of great images. Again, my first time photographing football, photographing swimming. So I'm not a professional in that sense. And look, my images, some of you are probably way better than I am. And I would love constructive criticism. Please give it to me because I want to learn. But at 200, you got some flexibility a little bit. APS-C crop, you go in, especially if you've got 50 megapixels or 60 megapixels. Let's say with the SL3, you got some room to play with. Even the S1R2, 45, you got room, right? And you get beautiful images. And subject detection was fast. Autofocus was quick. Minimal to zero chromatic aberration. It was so well controlled on that. Great. No issues with lights coming in from the stadium. All that was great. I was so impressed. But I thought to myself, if I was a sports photographer, right, and I did this for a living, would I pick this up? And I think I would, because A, it's giving you a prime look. And a prime look versus a zoom look, for the most part, most zoom lenses are going to give you that zoom look. It's still good, it works, it gets the job done, but when you shoot with a prime, there's some je ne sais quoi to it. You know what I'm talking about? And this lens gives that to you. What about going to the zoo with this? Well, I went to the zoo and I mounted it to the Sigma BF because I just wanted to try it. I know this is not the camera for that, but I have to tell you, the autofocusing was great on this camera. It detects animals, eyes on the lion, on the cheetahs. I was like, okay, this is not bad. Body design wise, not for wildlife. And I was pleasantly surprised. Now, again, the distance from the animals where I was at, this is only 24 megapixels. If you go to APS-C crop, you're really reducing the megapixels out of your image. Because the optics are so good and the image is so sharp, even at 24 megapixels, it feels like it's resolving around 30 plus because the image is just so crisp. And I mean, you see the hairs on the animal, it's so fine, and the micro contrast is beautiful out of this thing. It is stunning. And this is at f2. I didn't even have to stop down. I mean, the reason you get this lens is for f2. And Sigma's designed this lens to be optimal at f2. Of course, if you stop down, it gets a bit sharper, but it's fantastic. I didn't see much distortion. I mean, is there any vignetting? Honestly, I didn't really notice it, to be frank with you. When I look at the images on Lightroom, I don't see it. I found it to be really, really nice. And nothing stood out to me that made me go, ooh, maybe I would have second thoughts on this lens. I honestly really like this. I mean, I would say though, this lens deserves to be on a more classic camera body. So again, Lumix, Sony, Leica, this is the kind of body you would like this lens to be on. You know what? We have some fun. We play around with it. I mean, to sort of answer the question at the beginning of this video is, do I see this lens being in somebody's kit? And the answer is, yeah, I do. Getting fast aperture on this, considering the size of it is very compact for a 200mm f2 in 2025. We're not talking about the old lenses, but of today, this is really compact. And the images I got out of it were absolutely stunning. That's what it's about, guys. Finding that lens that gives your image a little something special. Unfortunately for the Sony bodies, you don't get the full frames per second, but on the L-mount camera systems, you do. Anyway, guys, if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. More content on the way. Thanks again so much for the support. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll chat to you all very, very soon. Bye.